Welcome to the FNRad Snowboarding Podcast. I'm Eric Charlson.
Wow, this is a great way to climb mountains and come down,
For our reception, our Vulcan buddies brought acid.
I was dropping in and snaking people and causing shit.
I remember calling on the radio and I'm like, Brushy, where are you?
Greg would do the tricks. He was kind of like the Tony Hawk of snowboarding.
I mean, people just really gravitated to the backcountry.
I liked Greg, but he didn't really care for me too much because I was a little shithead.
Our guest this week is Dakides, who dominated Winter X Games Slopestyle and Big Air between 1999 and 2002. She had groundbreaking video parts with Mack Dawg and was featured in several premier snowboarding movies until her official retirement in 2011. Tara turned pro at the beginning of the rapid expansion of the snowboard industry into providing women's-specific gear. In fact, she was a little ahead of her time. Before her rise to the top of women's snowboarding, she struggled to find companies that were even interested in sponsoring female riders. I can remember when she became the brightest star in snowboarding. She was completely unstoppable. So I just wanted to say I'm really stoked on all you guys listening and girls. We passed 10,000 downloads like a week ago, or maybe a little more than a week ago. We've had 1,000 downloads this week, which is awesome. And at the end of the show last week, I asked for some feedback on possibly changing the name. I think I'm going to leave it for now. But thanks to everybody who wrote in. That was rad. Special thanks to Chris Stellato, Jesse Davis, and my good buddy Gord. Your feedback was really appreciated, guys. Unfortunately, the audio in this episode is crummy. So if you're just joining us for the first time, or if you find it unbearable, I apologize.
Do you know what the reception is like in this area?
I have cool lines right now.
Okay. So we are traveling. I'm with my girlfriend, Madi, actually, Mark Frank Montoya's wife. He's usually with us, but he's in Japan right now.
You guys hang out a bunch?
He's one of my favorite humans on the planet. And then one of my favorite snowboarders, just because of his style and what he brought to the table, even though it was simple.
Riding with his jacket open.
I copied his style a couple times. I had slip drops with my jacket open.
Sick.
That. It was so funny you brought that up. We are working together, yeah. And then so Marco and Mari's little boy is about the same age as my daughter. So we're also having sort of a mommy getaway trip right now, too. Totally.
Let's start with your first board. What did you first try?
Oh, my gosh. Okay. So, I grew up in the world of gymnastics. Soccer, swimming, gymnastics. But gymnastics was my passion. Gymnastics led me to skateboarding. Oh, man, I used to buckboard down the hill to my elementary school in 4th or 5th grade.
Yep.
I didn't kind of skate around the parking lot and stuff, but I really started getting more serious with skateboarding at like 12. It was like how many stairs could you ollie and grinding red curves and things like that. So when I hit wind of snowboarding, I was already a skier. I skied since I was 4. My parents were really active. Big Bear was a local mountain. Having skateboarding and falling in love with it and really pushing myself in skateboarding to learn new tricks and do 7-stair gaps, stuff like that, and handrails and, skating birds and blah, blah, blah. Like, I naturally was like, what is this snowboarding thing? So I first went snowboarding in Squaw Valley, Tahoe.
Yep.
With actually my mom, and I was 13 years old. We rented, I think it was like a gyrator. I think Skate 2 made it.
Yep.
So the gyrator was black with, fluorescent
fluorescent hits on it.
Rainbows.
Yeah.
And I had my OP pants on that were I had a whole black kit with the knee pads and stuff. And I went with my mom, and it was amazing. And I literally ran into one other person snowboarding on the mountain that day, and he was just starting too. So we sort of high-fived each other from across the way because we couldn't actually get to each other. And then it just started from there. So that was my first year. I was 13, but I only went a couple times. But the next year, as I got older and into driving, I just spent as much time as I could up in Big Bear, fell in love with the scene up there. The Outlaw Park was developed. I got involved with, helping cut the pipe and build the park with the Outlaw crew. Mike Perlo was on it at the time, out there with a chainsaw, ripping chunks out of the sidewall for the half pipe. And I'd be at the bottom of the half pipe throwing these giant ice cubes out of the pipe for a comp pass that day because I didn't have any money. I intentionally bought a yellow 70s VW Plus because it was cheap on gas and it was front-wheel drive for good traction in the snow. So I just got up to the mountains as much as I could and fell in love with snowboarding because I could do things on my snowboard that I really wanted to do on my skateboard, but I couldn't.
Yeah.
You know, I could like jump bigger and do, you know, longer rail slides and bonk. It was like bonk things back then.
Yeah.
And the upside down trash cans. And so the scene back then was incredible. The Outlaw Park, I'll never forget. The fond memory of that is that we were given this one little run off to the side of the mountain because people didn't want us kind of intermingling with the skiers. So they sort of pushed the delinquents off to one side of the hill and made it a skate park, you know, and we got to just be really creative, you know, blast punk rock music to the speaker system. So.
Would you guys let the progressive skiers in there, or were you allowed, like we were up here, we were allowed to say, like, no skiers?
It was almost like, I mean, I hate to say it, but it was almost, I wasn't part of it, but the stories you take away from the day was, you know, it was almost like gang style. Like snowboarders and skiers did not get along, and they didn't want to play together. It would get to, like, fights on the hills and, you know, things like that. So we stayed out of their way, and they stayed out of our way. Snowboarding was so new that they didn't really know what to do with us, so they just kind of put us over onto this run, you know, needed to be, like, slowly introduced to the rest of the mountain. It came from Big Bear and watching that develop there, you know, then I was like, I got to get to a bigger mountain, you know, like, I want to become more of a well-rounded snowboarder, not just a park rider. And I didn't even know what that meant at the time. I just knew I needed to go. So I went to Mammoth thinking that was a big mountain, right? And then I got to see a whole new scene be developed there, too, kind of like what I saw in Big Bear. So it was fun because Mammoth Mountain didn't have a park at the time, and everything started over at June Mountain. And it was fun to be on a crew, kind of like having a little bit of experience in Big Bear, taking it to June and kind of having to stay, and, you know, along with a group of other people. And, you know, a couple cat drivers that were like, yeah, we'll stay out late and help you guys build a jump. So it was very grassroots. It was very, like, hands-on. You felt like you were really building something, you know, from the ground up. And just, no, I don't want to land flat, so here we go, build a jump. Yeah, it was fun to be so, like, involved in building things. I couldn't have asked for a better time to get involved in snowboarding.
Did you compete at that time?
No, I knew very early on that I wanted to do something with snowboarding. It was hard to kind of make a picture of what that was because professional snowboarding was pretty limited then, especially for women. I had like Cara Burnside, Jana Lyons, and really those two that I really looked up to that had accomplished it, but I could relate to because of skateboarding. And so my design was, you know, I wanted to do something with snowboarding, so I knew I needed to get noticed. So I just found whatever contest I could that I could afford to get myself to get into a platform where I could be, you know, kind of showcased. And coming from gymnastics and competing at a high level there, you know, I had a competitive spirit, so it fueled that as well. You know, and so I just kind of kept sourcing out these local contests.
Yep.
A lot came from shops that were, you know, doing sort of promotional stuff. A lot of sort of multi-discipline stuff like skate, snowboard contest. At some point there was like skate, wake, and snowboard contest. And then there was motocross, watercross contest. And, you know, they kind of merged all the worlds together. So I just kind of followed where that was all going.
And then did you get sponsored pretty early on?
Yes and no. Like I, you know, I was up at Big Bear all the time, kind of crashing everywhere, crashing myself. So I stood out of that. The girls just hucking themselves. I'll never forget the day that actually an old friend of mine who made an impact on snowboarding back in the, you know, high back days. Mark Gabriel came to me and he was like, "No, you're good. You have some talent. You just need to like calm down." And he kept watching me like going and not landing, and you know, I'm sure I landed a couple things here and there, but it was mostly following.
Yep.
So my first real person that took notice of me on the mountain was a skate snowboard shop, Active, at the time. Sal Mathakela was answering the phones at Trans World, and you know, I started riding with people like him, and people were like, you know, when Active started putting their team together, they had grabbed me and then they introduced me to Bill CK because he was a rep. So he created his own team for the companies that he reps, and I became one of the Team BK. So that was kind of my start, was through a ride shop and then a rep who, showed me some products and then the contest. And then I fell into some really small companies like Slide Snowboards, and then Sessions came in. I started working with Dragons, and they just got started, and they were running out of a garage with an office upstairs in Dana Point.
Those two sponsors at that time, just Sessions and Dragon, like that's Jamie Lynn, Chris Roach, I think.
Yeah.
That stuff was so rad.
My was on Sessions. I was just so thankful to be able to, travel the world with those guys and be kind of like the token girl there.
Were you on Dakine?
Yeah, I did work with those guys a bit. Being over in Hood River with, the Mack Dawg crew, I got to know those guys. Good group of people.
I don't think at that time there were any guys dominating snowboarding in the way that you dominated women's snowboarding.
It definitely came with the sacrifice, and it was a whirlwind, without a doubt. And I missed a lot of other aspects of life, family, kids, tight relationships, travel with the crew and get super tight for a little while, then everything would change the next year, and it was, kind of a different crew or growing. But it was really what I asked for and what I worked for. It gave me an unbelievable life for such a long time. I feel really fortunate that I had such a long career. I think that's what's not very common these days. I really, thanks to Mack Dawg and what he was doing, but his dedication and loyalty to the sport to continue putting out a video every year, and it was like, before I was pro, I was watching Mack Dawg videos, just studying on, the kids that really want this dream. You have to immerse yourself in it, so you just immerse in the magazines and the culture and the people, videos, and study, and you practice. So it didn't happen overnight, so I worked really, really hard to get to that place. So when I did, and things started flowing, and people started wanting, girls on their team, and the image that I sort of cultivated through punk rock music and the culture that I knew and loved from the early days of Big Bear and Mammoth. When I came in, when we barely even had snowboard gear, and it certainly wasn't waterproof, and all of their stuff was like beach girl and flowers. It was fun to sort of take what I had created before the level of success that I hit for in my mid to late 20s. It was fun to be a part of that growth. I'd like to say that I just took as much advantage of the opportunities that were given to me as possible, because I would work really, really hard to get there. And something that as I started fading out and seeing some of these younger generations coming in, and they could be a little bit more picky about the jumps and stuff like that, my mentality never, ever changed. And my mentality was, if I want to be the best at what I wanted to do for me, if I was going to be lucky enough for a photographer or filmer to show up to video me, then I was going to perform. And that was my work ethic always. You've never seen me sitting next by a jump and just complaining about it not working out, or I don't feel like riding, because
Right.
That was my job. And that's what I worked really hard to get to. And photographers and filmers didn't always show up to Video Girl. I remember going to the convention centers with my video, on VHS, and totally dating myself. For my little portfolio that I put together from my friend that had a computer and knew how to work a program, like my little portfolio I handed out, and they'd be like, sorry, we don't sponsor girls. I mean, if you're a good writer, we like what you do, and you seem like you have a good image, but we just don't sponsor girls. There's no market for it. And that wasn't just one company. I could list like 10 companies going around to the trade shows when they used to let you in without a badge, and just being like, hey, I put together a video, would you like to look at it? I'm looking for some help. I'd love to continue traveling snowboard. And they were like, yeah, sweet video, looks great, but there's no market for girls. None of our sales come from you guys. There was no market for girls.
You're saying you went to 10 or, more companies, but every single one of them the next year were just kicking themselves going, fuck, we could add Dakides.
don't know like that. But, I mean, we're talking like counterculture. They were one of my first clothing sponsors. They were like, you know what? We'll flow you some stuff. We're counterculture. You know? But yeah, I mean, you hit it on the head. Like that's why Kirstie Wallace was so good with. She came out with one of the first ever signature women-specific snowboard boots. The snowboard boot was made for men and women. So she pretty much bought a house off her royalties from that boot. But it's fun to remember the time before that, you know?
Were your parents involved in encouraging you to follow your dream?
No.
Oh, no.
No. And it's not because they didn't want to be supportive. They wanted the best for me, and the best in their mind was going to school, getting an education, and, you know, following that system so you can fall into a good job. It's really, professional snowboarding isn't really a job then to make any money at. And, you know, I had my skateboard, get scars, get hurt. So, no, I actually left home at 15 to pursue my dream of snowboarding with very little support from my family. Lots of love, but not a lot of support for what I was doing. So.
For some reason, I had it in my head that your dad was, like, helping you negotiate contracts and stuff like that. That you did that all on your own.
I did. I did it all on my own. I didn't know what the heck I was doing. My dad was an incredible man and an incredibly loving father, but he just, of course, wanted the best for me. His vision was different from mine. But no, he gave me some tips and pointers when I started buying real estate. And I'm like, maybe there's something here. Like, at least good for her. She's going to places we've never been. And then I bought my first house in my early 20s. And, this is something that could be lucrative for her.
Yeah.
And so they became supportive, and they wanted to come to all my ex-kids. My dad would, and they ended up becoming obviously, parents, like my biggest fans.
Nice.
And they still tell me how proud they are, so it was a learning lesson for everybody and all parents, I think.
Yeah.
Your kids' dreams and vision might not always align with their parents, but, have support, safe and trust, and, let them feel it out. Pretty much scouted out by Steve Aspen, who was just getting started.
That's the guy who started with Kevin Jones, is that right?
Kevin was his first, I believe, because they were old friends and Steve owned the shop. Yeah, so he was a visionary with our emerging, what we call now action sports. I think it was extreme sports then, so it was action sports.
So did you meet Kevin through him? You guys were married, right, for a bit?
No. I've only been married once. Kevin and I were like best friends for a long time before we got together, and actually saw eye to eye on a lot of, I would say, challenges that came into snowboarding, fame, and like the balance of it all. When you're so young and you're swept up in it, you gotta really, manage a lot of different things.
Mm-hmm.
Never knew you would be managing. We supported each other through those times and became, really good friends. Traveled with Mack Dawg productions and stuff, and then one day fell in love.
Was it one of those classics, like you should have just stayed best friends kind of thing?
No, I think because we're still friends and we still keep in touch.
Cool.
We check in on each other from time to time, and he's an incredible person. He's an amazing, talented person, and no, I'm super grateful for that time and what it was. He was the love of my life for a while. I wouldn't change that. I
can't imagine what it would have been like to be two professional snowboarders traveling around the world and just shredding together.
I know, you look back and it's like, that's the dream right there. But unfortunately, we didn't really know how to deal with it at the time with everything else that was going on in our personal lives. You just see the cover shot, but, we're still dealing with life and things that come in and out. They're difficult. A lot of people said we were kind of funny. We got that silly title, like King and Queen of Snowboarding.
Yeah.
Because we were winning the same contests, winning the same awards. And luckily, our careers pulled us together rather than two separate directions. And it was fun. I wish I had a few more tools then that I have now to deal with some of the aspects of that.
Of course.
He was a very deep thinking person who just loved snowboarding what it did. I mean, he just happy places in the mountains, dropping lines. The truest essence of like a snowboarder that you could, imagine, as far as the love for the sport. But the recognition and the waiting that came with it was really, really challenging on them. You can get pulled in a lot of different directions. You can find yourself in situations where you're not really sure, like, is this where I'm meant to be? Are these the things that I want to support? You kind of feel like a token being, thrown around in different limelights rather than a human being. And, some of your so-called friendships aren't exactly what they seem, what you thought they would be. So there's a lot of personal growth that comes with it, and like boundaries that you have to put up to kind of hold on to like your own person. I think anybody that becomes a celebrity, like we were like mini versions of what celebrity, feels like, and you're suddenly living your life on these outlets. And we were both very private people, so that was a challenge. A winter season was go, go, go. And I mean, when you're doing every event in a contest and doing multiple video parts and interviews, and you have expectations with sponsors paying you from the highest paid dollars in the industry at the time, there's a certain level of pressure and obligation to perform. And I say, like, dance when you dance. You're like, well, the humanness comes out of it a little bit in a sense. You have to find your way through it. When you're a sensitive person and you kind of like see things for what they really are, it can be a feeling of disheartenment in something that you absolutely love.
I could see that.
So my detachment from snowboarding when I started looking at retirement was really having to define the person I was. Something for any snowboarder, athlete, or person that's listening to this right now, one thing that really helped me in the transition, because I didn't transition out of snowboarding very easily, it wasn't graceful for me. What I had to do is realize that snowboarding was what I did, it wasn't who I was. And when you start identifying yourself with what you do, rather than who you just are and what your core values are, then you can get misguided. Suddenly, you're 40 having a midlife going, who am I? Because you identified yourself as something that you did. That was a wake-up call for me when I started realizing that this was just something that I did. And now I have to find out who Tara Dakides is without snowboarding.
Even if you're living life and being a mom and going on other adventures, I'm almost shocked that there isn't some company that's like, you're on our team for life. Or have people approached you and you're like, you know what, I'm not interested?
No, actually, when the recession came, I pretty much got let go of all my sponsors within a year and a half in a very disheartening way, like literally pretty much on a phone call after dedicating over 10 years, being loyal to those brands, and I could have gone a different way for more money. And I was hoping that I had made enough of a mark in snowboarding that I would stay involved in some way as a brand ambassador or mentor to the upcoming generation, because I felt like through all my experience and mistakes that I could have something to pass forward to future generations, that I wish I had known before. But there was no place for me to land. I literally came out with a documentary film against the grain that Alicia Moore narrated, and did a very intimate look into my life on that with Billabong, and then literally right after it came out, I was dropped by them so they could pick up Jamie Anderson. I remember them saying, well, don't worry, you'll find another place to land, another home. But what they didn't realize is that I branded myself so much to these companies that I was completely branded with them. So at 33, when I was looking for new sponsors, there was really not a lot of interest. Plus, our economy was in a horrible state. Snowboarding took a huge hit. So I funded my own snowboarding for years until it didn't make sense anymore, and I was looking at my bank account draining, and nobody wanted to give me any support. And I wasn't willing to go back out where I was before and go, hey, sponsor me. I guess I probably had an ego, and I figured, it would be known. I had gone multiple different boards because Omatic, got bought by an attorney out from underneath of us. So it was like I was riding whatever, sessions came back in, but I wasn't getting paid. I was just getting royalties. So I was an open board. Like, somebody could come in and put their sticker on me, but nobody did. So at 2011, when I had finally got an opportunity to live in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, which was a dream of mine, I wanted to experience the mountains out there. The Gooches and old friends, Kingwell and Kevin Jones was out there as well. And, I felt like that it called me, and I went there and I did my season, but I was filming on my own dime. I had no crew to film with. Not the big part of a career, kind of having your own film crew. Also, social media came into play, so everybody was doing like their own podcasts and filming themselves, and it was like, Dogger was kind of looking for a different direction and taking his career. My generation was really changing, and a lot of people were exiting, and because I didn't find a place to land, I detached, and it wasn't easy. In fact, it was so challenging that you are literally the third interview that I've done since I retired snowboarding. I've had people ask to do interviews. I've had people want to check in on my life.
Yeah.
Where'd you go? What happened? I didn't feel like I had anything positive to share at the time because I was pretty upset about how my retirement worked out. I was kind of like, well, I'm a washed-up snowboarder, and now I'm looking for, my next stage in life. I can't really afford to go snowboarding anymore. So I didn't, X Games would call and be like, we're doing our, 20-year anniversary. We want you to be a part of it. And I was like, why? Are you going to pay me?
Right.
Am I going to put my time into something that I'm not, you guys, what do I get for it?
Right.
And that's what my attitude turned into, because I was like, well, why should I promote you for your journey or when nobody's there to promote, or keep me in as an ambassador or mentor of the brand. Sounds kind of negative, but that was my mindset. So I didn't have anything to share, and I didn't want to offer any of my time for other people's needs. It felt like it was a very take situation. And I was done. I was like, you know what? I'll go snowboarding, but don't expect anything else.
The Full Moon Girls, do they invite you on trips and stuff?
I totally got involved with the Full Moon Girls after Mack Dawg, but that was 2007
to
2011.
Yep, okay.
So really 2007, I got injured in 2008, and then I had a part 2009.
Yep.
2010, I started filming in Jackson Hole.
Dope.
And I was doing little pickup clips here and there.
Yep.
And I tried to fall into a crew, but I didn't have enough shots to really make a full part. And, by that time, I was all on my own dime. And so 2011 was like my last year that I said, can't fund this anymore.
The generation before you found themselves in a similar situation, like to the
Victoria Jalous. She hasn't even reemerged yet. I'm waiting for her to accept another interview so we can hear from her, because I miss her. It's just the natural life of any professional athlete.
I think you're right.
They have their time. It comes and goes. I miss Michael Jordan. I'm sure a lot of other people do too.
Sure.
I was actually just talking about this the other day, because not so much that I love basketball, but I loved his athletic spirit. I just loved watching him. It's sort of a natural evolution, and I just had to surrender to that. But I just picked up my first little mini sponsor. We're kind of working things out right now, but it's the best fit that I could ask for, because it's a bag company, so it's super diverse, but it has to do with moms and entrepreneurs. It's like a diaper/work bag, which is totally my life right now. I've got one little one in diapers, and my 4-year-old, obviously she's almost 4, and my little one's almost 2.
Yeah.
And just a really nice guy. It's called Product of the North, startup company. He's doing out of his house. And great bag, great look, super awesome style. And he likes my story, and he's like, I want to promote you for whatever it is that you're doing in your life right now, whether it's snowboarding or not. So to answer your question, if a company came in and wanted to look, I'm not doing any contests, and I get very few days on the mountain. If you want to have a ride-along for a heli trip and have like a, or even, on the mountain, just have like ride days, sort of that ambassador program, or do any mentoring with some of the young generations coming up, especially now as snowboarders are coming up, they're like 10 years old and 11 and 12, and even families. I get people emailing or Facebooking me saying, what would you suggest? Well, a mentor is going to be able to kind of come in and guide with that. But obviously, I can't spend my time doing that because I have my own children, I have my own life now, and it doesn't exactly pay what I've got going on right now. I do it for selective people when I'm really inspired by their story or their personal friends or friends of friends, kind of thing.
Is there stuff you would say to young women right now just about following your dreams and about snowboarding, anything like that?
What I want to give to my daughter is that she can do anything she believes she can do. Because without belief and without vision, people will perish.
Yeah.
And I went through it. I didn't always believe it myself. I had to find my belief all the time. It's not like it's something that just is given. Like, here's your belief, go run with it. You got to work at it. You got to get knocked down to figure out how to, you yourself, pick yourself up and find it again and figure a way around it, around the obstacles that life presents. And so, again, going back to mentoring, it's like, thank God for the people that I went to and the mentors that I had outside of snowboarding that helped me find my belief when I lost it or my vision when I lost it. Because I could have given up very easily, and I'm glad that I didn't. And I think the biggest takeaway from my career is that because I saw through the tough times and the challenging times and pursued my dream, is that I now know whatever I put my mind to, I can accomplish. And that's what I'm doing now with my family. I get to be a stay-at-home, work-from-home mom with my kids, which is what I always wanted to do if I was going to be fortunate enough to be a mom. That was my vision for my life. I wanted to find a dream piece of property for myself and my family that I could pass down to my generation, to my kids. I wanted to build, a barn with an apartment upstairs, live in that while we worked on the dream house. I wanted to be involved in a company that allowed me to have the flexibility and freedom that I knew and loved from snowboarding. I always tell people that I'm like completely unemployable. No way I could ever have a job. It's like just the thought of it just like makes me cringe. It's just because I kind of run wild for so long. I can't go back. But I've had thoughts that I was going to have to. That was what my life was going to look like after snowboarding. And I kept my belief because I looked at it like, am I going to work in an office now? Like, what am I going to do? I looked at my life and I looked at my core values and what my goals were, what I wanted my life to look like. And I kept that vision. I didn't let go of it. And I didn't always know how I was going to get there. But I think if you believe in it strong enough, the how to get there works itself out. And if you keep an open mind and you keep, an openness to opportunities that come your way, because if you know what you want, you'll attract those opportunities and they'll come your way. But then you have to be smart enough or wise enough to realize that's an opportunity that I'm going to look at. And it's an opportunity I'm going to take advantage of. So don't have any closed doors. That's a big message I would say to people and my kids is like, even though you have your life design, it's not always going to come in the shapes and colors that you envisioned it to be. It might look totally different, but it might end up being exactly the same that gives you the freedoms that you're looking for, or whatever it is that's important to you. For me, it's freedom, time freedom, financial freedom, to be able to live my life how I want to on my terms. That would be probably my message there. And snowboarding didn't just happen,
I think that's
there's
a big
timing, there's vision and work.
You mentioned at the beginning, you're crashing a lot. You've got big heart and you're trying, and somebody's like, hey, you just need to slow down a little bit.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people, when they crash, they just give up. When you crash, that doesn't necessarily mean you're failing at doing what you're doing. It means keep going, and you got to be willing to crash to get to that great thing. But most people just crash a couple times and they're like, that's that. I'm done. There's a lot of people that think that being a pro snowboarder is just fun. It's like this, oh, lucky you, you get to do what you love for your life, for your living. I wish I would have been able to do that, but what they're wishing for isn't a reality. You wish you were independently wealthy and good at snowboarding.
Oh, yeah. I mean, absolutely. I never thought my career when I got started would land me on, like, the big Letterman shows, you know, or meeting some of the people that I intermingled with in my life that are, like, super celebrities or whatever. That I never even entered my mind. It was just the whirlwind that I ended up getting on and going through with what I created. And you're absolutely right. I mean, I look at, you know, when you crash, those are your lessons of learning. I mean, my biggest lessons in life for myself were when I was injured, the downtime, and losing contests or not winning, you know, like not podium for me, losing. When you're looking at something from an outsider's perspective, somebody's life could look super glossy and like it's this perfect kind of deal, but it's never like that. And success doesn't happen without work. You know, true success, you know, not like trust fund success, you know, and even those people have lessons that they need to learn, but personal success, whatever it is, whatever goals you set that you want to succeed in, whether it's money or, you know, just accomplishment or degrees or just personal markers for your life, having a family, being a mom. And by the way, being a mom is like the hardest job in the world. Way harder than snowboarding, but and way more fulfilling. If you're falling and you're failing, then you're trying. And you're on the right track. It's just a matter of is that the track that you really want to be on? And are you going to let those obstacles detour you from that track? Or are you going to stick in with it long enough to get to the other side?
FNRad shout-outs this week start with Tara.
I mean, if anybody wants to follow like what we're doing on our kind of dream build, sharing a lot there with the process of it. I love the fact that I'm able to have a platform to bring some pretty valuable things to light that I feel should be taught in our school system, like restoration agriculture. But it's called Building Smart by Dakides.
Yep.
And it's a closed Facebook group page, and invite yourself in there. So you can friend request that and let you in. And you can see my kids. And, you know, life is good. Life is super good. And I feel very blessed and grateful for the things that we have and where I'm at right now. So it was super nice to talk to you, Eric. And please, keep in touch with me.
Thanks for listening to the FNRad Snowboarding Podcast. Be sure to come back next week for another episode brought to you by BR Productions.